Blessings, blessings. Welcome to Congregation Rehoboth. Thursday night Torah talks live, y'all. We're in the building tonight, and we're going to be discussing the Torah tonight. So I'm looking forward to another opportunity to share what the scripts are going to talk to us about tonight. We're looking forward to this one tonight. It's called Parashat Yitro or Jethro in English. In this Torah portion tonight, y'all, we have Moses here. Moses tells his father-in-law, Jethro, about the miracle of the Exodus. Do we have historical proof for the Exodus? Now, some of you may say, well, yeah, we got the Bible. Listen, there are people who don't believe in the Bible. And so we have to be able to share the historical truths for the Exodus history outside of the Bible. Can we do that? Well, absolutely. I have in my hands a copy of Josephus, and I want you to understand that in this translated copy of Josephus, we have several books here. We have The Antiquity of the Jews. Yes, very good read. Very good historical information by Josephus, Flavius Josephus. We have The Wars of the Jews, which is dealing with the history and the destruction of Jerusalem. And then we have Against Appian. And in Against Appian, you want to check this out. In Against Appian, I was listening to guy Zion Lex that turned me on to. I've had this book here, and I've read through Wars and Antiquities, but I hadn't gotten to Against Appian. And where did I find that at? There is a Egyptian priest by the name of, here we go. Put my faithful bookmark in it. There's an Egyptian priest by the name, so this is Against Appian, I believe 15. Let me see, let me just double check here. Yep. So book 1, Against Appian, book 1, 15. It says, but now I shall produce the Egyptians as witnesses to the antiquity of our nation. I shall therefore here bring in Manetho. Guys, you want to write this name down and you want to research it. You want to write this name down and you definitely want to research it. Manetho. All right. And it says what he writes as to the order of the times in the case, and thus he speaks. When this people or shepherds were gone out of Egypt to Jerusalem. Moses, the king of Egypt, who drove them out. You want to know who the king was? Who the Egyptian king was that drove them out? It's in the book of Josephus, where we have this surviving testimony of Manetho, who is a scribe and I believe a priest for the Egyptians, who gives an account of Egyptian history. And in his account, he speaks of when this people or shepherds were gone out of Egypt to Jerusalem, Thutmose, the king of Egypt, who drove them out, reigned after 25 years and 4 months, and then died after him. His son took the kingdom for 13 years. And so this goes on and on. It talks about some very interesting stuff. I'm gonna have to sit down and I'm gonna have to thoroughly go through it. I kind of eyeballed it a little bit, just to get the gist. But when I study something like this, guys, I don't just read it. I cross-reference. I do comparative studies. And I want to see, is there any legitimacy to this guy Manetho? Does he come up in other writings of other people during that period of time? And so these are the things that I'm really interested in. But yes, he definitely deals with some interesting history here. And so the interesting thing is it's found in the book of Josephus. Manetho's testimony about the Exodus, the only surviving, I believe, documentation outside of the Bible, perhaps so far that I've studied, is this guy Manetho. And once again, thank you to Zion Lex, who shared this information. And once I looked at it and briefly browsed it, it's very interesting, to say the least. And so we have here an account that has to be verified for sure. However, we definitely find it interesting that a guy named Manetho, I shouldn't say a guy, but this priest, Egyptian priest, who gives the history of Egypt and includes within his history, out of all the things he could write about, he includes the history of the miracle of the Exodus. And so Jethro proclaims that the Israelite God is greater than all other gods, especially the Egyptian gods, and he makes a sacrifice. Jethro then advises Moses to delegate leadership roles in order not to tire himself out or wear himself out. The Israelites camp at the bottom of Mount Sinai. After 3 days, the mountain fills with smoke and God delivers the 10 commandments. And not just the 10 commandments, y'all, but also the Torah, the teachings on the commandments. Oh, yes. Not only does he deliver the commandments, the 613, but he delivers the teachings on the commandments. And so we're going to take a look in this book. We're going to take a look in this book, y'all. Right here at this particular chapter. And I think it's chapter 20. Chapter 20, that you have all 10 commandments. And I want to deal with one of them specifically, but it goes all the way through chapter 20 and stops with verse 23. Okay. And so we're going to look at one of those commandments and find it interesting. So here we go. Here we go. All right. Share my screen again. All right. And so we're going to be looking at We're only going to deal with Exodus 19. Then we're going to deal with Isaiah and then Matthew. All right, here we go, guys. Blessings. All right.
Exodus 19. On the third new moon, after the people of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from Rephidim and came into the wilderness of Sinai, and they encamped in the wilderness. There Israel encamped before the mountain, while Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him out of the mountain, saying,
Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the people of Israel, You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel.
So Moses came and called the elders of the people and set before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. All the people answered together and said,
All that the Lord has spoken, we will do.
And Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses,
Behold, I am coming to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you, and may also believe you forever.
When Moses told the words of the people to the Lord said to Moses,
Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments and be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. And you shall set limits for the people all around, saying, Take care not to go up into the mountain or touch the edge of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall be stoned or shot. Whether beast or man, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain.
So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and consecrated the people, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people,
Be ready for the third day. Do not go near a woman.
On the morning of the third day there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast, so that all the people in the camp trembled. Then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke, because the Lord had descended on it in fire. The smoke of it went up like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled greatly. And as the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him in thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And the Lord said to Moses,
Go down and warn the people, lest they break through to the Lord to look and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them.
And Moses said to the Lord,
The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you yourself warned us, saying, Set limits around the mountain and consecrate it.
And the Lord said to him,
Go down and come up bringing Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them.
So Moses went down to the people and told them.
All right. So Exodus 20 is just a outline of the commandments, the mitzvot, the 10 matters that represent the categories of the 613. So now we're going to move on to the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 6 through chapter 7, and then Isaiah one verse in Isaiah, actually two verses in Isaiah 9:5 and 9:6. All right, so here we go. All right, here we go.
Isaiah 6.
In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said,
Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory.
And the foundations of the thresholds shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth and said,
Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for.
And I heard the voice of the Lord saying,
Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?
Then I said, Here am I, send me. And he said,
Go and say to this people, Keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people dull and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed.
Then I said, How long, O Lord? And he said,
Until cities lie waste without inhabitant, and houses without people, and the land is a desolate waste. And the Lord removes people far away, and the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land. And though a tenth remain in it, it will be burned again, like a terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains when it is felled. The holy seed is its stump.
Isaiah 7. In the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, Rezin the king of Syria, and Pekah the son of Remaliah, the king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to wage war against it, but could not yet mount an attack against it. When the house of David was told,
Syria is in league with Ephraim,
the heart of Ahaz and the heart of his people shook, as the trees of the forest shake before the wind. And the Lord said to Isaiah,
Go out to meet Ahaz, you and Shear-Jashub your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool on the highway to the washer's field, and say to him,
Be careful, be quiet. Do not fear, and do not let your heart be faint because of these 2 smoldering stumps of firebrands, at the fierce anger of Rezin and Syria, and the son of Remaliah. Because Syria with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah has devised evil against you, saying, Let us go up against Judah and terrify it, and let us conquer it for ourselves, and set up the son of Tebaal as king in the midst of it.
All right. That was Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1 through 7. Chapter 7, verse 6. Now we're going to go to Isaiah 9. We're going to look at 4, 5, and 6. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 4, 5, and 6. All right. All right. Now we're going to go to Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to start in verse 8. Matthew chapter 5, verse 8 through 20. 8 through 20. Here we go.
For he was saying to him,
Come out of the man, you unclean spirit.
and Jesus asked him,
What is your name?
he replied,
My name is Legion, for we are many.
and he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, saying,
Send us to the pigs! Let us enter them!
So he gave them permission. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and were drowned in the sea. The herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country, and people came to see what it was that had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legion, sitting there, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. And he did not permit him, but said to him,
Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you.
And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled.
All right. All right. Blessings, blessings, blessings. We are definitely excited about this Parashat tonight. Some very interesting content that we're going to definitely lay down tonight. But I do want to go back to the Exodus. And I want to lift up a couple principles, and I'm not going to be long before you tonight, but I do want to lift up a couple principles tonight in the scriptures. And one of them is in the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 4. And so I'm going to go here in the scriptures tonight so we can see what Exodus chapter 20 and verse 4 says here. All right. Exodus 20 and verse 4. You got to forgive me, you guys. I don't know if I have a cold or some sort of something, but my voice is waning. And, before I get to Exodus 20, I want to go to Exodus 19 and deal with verse 1. Exodus 19 and verse 1. All right. And I want you guys to see this because I think it's very interesting. And I think it's very telling concerning this whole idea that I'm dealing with on Sundays. I have so many different series that sometimes I get confused. But let's look at this verse and deal with the contents, guys, because I think it's interesting to look at. All right. And so verse 1, it says, and I really want to deal with this first phrasing in here, in the third month. Now that's very interesting how it says in the third month when the children of Israel were gone out of Egypt. But let's look at the Hebrew on that. All right. And I don't really like the ESV so much, but the ESV is interpreting the Hebrew here. And so what I want to do is I want to look at the different Bibles to see what they have to say. All right, so we see the King James says in the 3rd month. Okay, see that in the New King James, the 3rd month. In the NLT, New Living Translation, exactly 2 months. In the NIV, on the 1st day of the 3rd month. All right. And the ESV, on the 3rd new moon. Okay, so that's very interesting. And I think the ESV and the RSV on the 3rd new moon, the ESV and the RSV, they both proclaim that it doesn't say in the 3rd month. All right. And so I want to look at this and look at what the Hebrew says concerning this passage. All right. And I'm wondering why. Oh, yes, here we go. Here we go. On the 3rd new moon. So let's try to go to the Hebrew on this. Okay. And they interpret it again on the 3rd month after. And really, it should say on the 3rd new moon. All right. Ba Chodesh Hashlishi Le Tzet Benai Yisrael Eretz Eretz Mitzrayim Bayom Hazeh Ba'u Midvar Sinai. Okay. Now, I find it very interesting that it doesn't read on the 3rd new moon. But we know that a new moon is approximately 29.5 days. And I thought it very interesting that if we looked at tonight, so tonight is today the 1st? I believe today is the 1st. Yes. So according to the Gregorian calendar, today is the new month. But according to the Hebrew way of keeping time, when is the new moon? Because it's not tonight. So for the biblical calendar, the new moon is not tonight. How do you know that, Pastor? Well, we know that the new moon is going to be all white. If you go outside right now, I tried looking at the moon before I came in, and we have so much cloud cover down here, I couldn't see it. However, we have a wonderful way with technology, and technology tells us from the satellite that we're in the waning gibbous. It's almost the new moon, and it will be the new moon pretty soon, I believe, on the 5th of this month. we will have a new moon. And so, yeah, if we look at, I want to show you, I don't know if it will allow me to, but let me try it. I want to show you this. Now, why am I dealing with this? So I'm going to say, what am I going to look for here? Moon phase in Patterson. Tonight. All right. So let's see if they will give me, let's see, image or maybe live. Hold on. Let's see. Let's go right here. All right. So if you were to go outside right now, what you would see, if you're able to see the moon, and you would, so today is the 1st, but this is showing February 2nd. So we see here, the moon looks just like this tonight. Waning gibbous. It's like a half moon there. Okay, and so tomorrow it's going to look very similar, but we can see that it's getting more white. And we go over here. Okay. So it's saying that the next new moon is going to be on the 9th of February. The new moon means that it's the beginning of a new month. Okay. And so we see that according to the Gregorian calendar, that the new month starts today. But according to the biblical keeping of time, we see the new month is going to start on the 9th of February, which this all black moon is the new moon. Okay. And so I just wanted to point that out. I thought it very interesting to really consider that and to really look at what's going on there and to really, begin to get into this deeper significance of how Yah keeps time. And so I think it's very interesting and humbling too, because Yah chose to show Moses how to keep proper time. Why? So that we can keep the feast days in its proper season. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to Exodus 20. And I want you to see something here too. And so in Exodus 20, you guys, we're going to start with verse 2. And then I'm going to drop down to verse 4. Exodus chapter 20, verse 2 starts off with this. Now, this is a command. This is a command. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Now, what is the command in that verse? Because it's a part of the 613, but what is the command in that verse? All right. So he's saying here, the scriptures, Yah is through Moses is saying, I am the Lord your God. In other words, he's saying, as a command, you must believe in me. I am your God. Because Come on and go with me, y'all. It's saying that you belong to me and you must believe in me. It is a command to believe in me. He's commanding the Israelites to believe that he is the most high of the universe. It's a command to believe in him. And not only is it a command for the Israelites, I honestly believe it's a command for all of humanity. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Must I show and prove? Okay, I will. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And we're going to drop down to verse 13. Okay. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. And this word man is ha. Let me highlight it. Ha Adam. And when you understand what ha Adam is, okay, we're going to look. I'm going to show you what ha Adam is. It is mankind, human beings. All right. And so he's saying here, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep the commandments. For this, fearing God and keeping the commandments is the whole duty of humanity. Interesting, isn't it? It is the whole duty of humanity. And so when we read in Exodus chapter 20, verse 2, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Yes, he's speaking specifically to the Israelites because our ancestors were the only ones enslaved in Egypt and he brought us out. However, we see that this command to believe in the Most High of the universe is not only for Israelites, but when we read the rest of Scripture, we see that it is indeed for all humanity. And so this is very interesting. And I want to read something out of this particular book here. So he says here, it's obvious to all that this principle is the focal point of the Israelite faith. Anyone who denies this principle denies all of the Torah and is not considered a part of the Israelite people. Listen, you can't deny Yah, the Most High, and not believe in him and think for one reason that you're going to be a part of who he is. Every Israelite must enter these basic beliefs into his or her consciousness. And there must be no doubt about these principles at all. When an Israelite is asked about his or her religious beliefs, he or she must immediately respond that these are his or her beliefs. Never would he or she exchange these beliefs for any others, even when we're threatened with death. All right. And so I've been saying this for a long time. If you are indeed a believer, and I said this last week, you have the Ruach, which seals you, which gives you the ability and the desire to live steadfastly, to live holy, Kodesh, set apart, which causes you not to turn back or to turn your back on Yah. All right. And so there's no way for a believer to ever have to repent for salvation again. Just doesn't happen. Well, what about people, Pastor, who they repent, they come down, they were never saved. They were never saved, y'all. And so He says, you must believe in me. That's a command. Let's look at verse 4. Look what he says here. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Here's another command. Now, why would he say, don't even make it? Why not make a graven image? I mean, what's wrong with just simply making something that's nice to look at? Well, if you look at verse 5, he explains why. Because he knows that thou shalt bow ourselves down to them and serve them. Okay? So he says, I'm going to build a fence around verse 5 so that you don't even think about serving and bowing down to it. And the way that I'm going to make sure that you don't serve it and bow down to it is verse 4. Don't even make it. You see how that works? It says, don't even make it. It's a fence. It's a fence. Even Yeshua used fences. He used a fence, and I'm going to share that with you. You know, when he was talking about adultery. All right. And so we're gonna look at that passage. I think it's in Matthew 5. Let's check it. Let's check the record. Are we going to look at Matthew 5? Oh, no, that's Mark, I believe. But let's look at Matthew 5. And yes, here is a fence. Matthew 5:28. Or let's start in 27. You heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. That's the command. Verse 28, but I say unto you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery. So he said, don't even look at a woman with lustful intent, because you've already committed it. That's a fence. That's a fence to protect you from committing adultery. He says you got to make a covenant with your eyes. Okay. And so I thought that was very interesting to see this particular passage here in verse 4 of Exodus 20. Don't even make for yourselves any carved image. Okay. And as Yeshua said, when it comes to lust, when it comes to adultery, that even if you look at a woman, you can begin to have lustful. If you look too long, you begin looking at the wrong places, you will begin to have lustful intentions. And Yeshua said, you've already committed adultery in your heart. All right. And so I wanted to show that. I wanted to bring that out as we look at this interesting Parashat tonight. I think it's so super powerful that we have an opportunity to see how the Torah works, and to see and understand some things about the Torah that we probably, I don't know, I don't want to say we didn't get, but we probably didn't look as deep as we should have. All right. And so I want to definitely have us to consider. Also, if you can thumb up the video, share the live, y'all. Thumb up the video, share the live. Grateful for you for doing that. Thumb up the video, share this live, as as we get into, we're into it actually. Put thumb up the video, share the live, y'all. And we want to definitely make sure that we are doing our part. Let me see, what is this? Did I share the wrong video? I'm not sure, y'all, what is happening here. Here we go. All right. So we have Parashat Yitro, and we're definitely getting into the content, y'all. And I'm looking forward to having this discussion again. And I think it's super interesting as we consider just the different things that were brought up tonight in this parasha. And so I'm curious to know if you had any questions, if you had anything you wanted to add, pop them in the chat. Pop them in the chat, y'all. And we will definitely revisit this. However, we definitely look forward to having you guys back once again, and consider the things that were shared tonight. I think it's very powerful when we really look at what's being shared and how important it is to follow or to halakha these principles in the Torah. And so blessings and shalom to you and your family. And thank you for tuning in tonight. And we look forward to having another discussion Thursday night, Torah Talks Live. Blessings.